touched on both economic and religious angles. So I want to spend some time on each of them. So let's first start with the religious angle, right? So as Simbu rightly pointed out, there's some vested interests group that are very strong in Pakistan, and they have access to power echelons, and they are part of that elite, although culturally they may not associate with the Western elite, but they are the part of the elite. And they claim that Pakistan is a highly religious country, and in terms of Friday prayer ban, they perpetuated the idea that it will just bring hell will lose if government even think about barring Friday prayers for the interest of public health. But this survey results fascinatingly show that more than 80%, or at least 2/3 of the participants supported the prayer ban in the larger interest of public health and that's fascinating. I don't know if government get to see these results and rethink about their recent policy. So any thoughts on this?
Who do you want to ask? I mean, I have many thoughts on this, but I think I'll give Bilal a chance to come back on this. Bilal?
I'd add one thing on this. So, one thing is supporting the prayer ban, and the other is also of not attending oneself. So, in the second wave of the survey, which happened in late March and early April, we asked if a male in the household had went for the Friday prayer that had just happened. And about 53% said that the male in the household did go and attend. So there was this discrepancy between saying that they support the lockdown, they support the Friday ban, but also still attending. In the latest one, in the wave 3 that's reported, the number drops down to, I think, 29%. And so in that sense, it is. I mean, it's still 29% of people who are attending. I recently came across today, Fafin did an observation across the country. So they reported 80% of the mosques in Punjab were actually holding Tarawih prayers, and they followed a checklist of the SOPs and whether they were being followed. And I think they reported astoundingly high numbers of nothing happening of that sort. So it is. I mean, so I think views and perceptions on one thing and action on the other. I still think that on one hand, it breaks our usual stereotype of the Pakistani public as one that doesn't listen to the government at all. So that stereotype is broken because, I mean, very large numbers are complying with it and increasingly complying with it. Before the government itself actually caved in to other pressures than the public's pressure. People were complying to it. So to that extent, it kind of provides a disjuncture from the past. But at the same time, it is still not good enough for the containment of the corona. So I mean, if 29% of people of adult males are attending, that adds up to millions of people who are attending. And if those became carriers of the corona, like the Tablighi Jamaat congregations, the problem can be far worse. So to me, it is also a lack of clarity at the government's end of what is to be done, because they seem to be doing one thing and saying another, perpetually across. And I agree with Fasi's comment that it is a novel corona, but I think by this time it should not be so novel to the government of Pakistan, who should at least pursue one strategy in continuity, without actually confusing the people. So I mean, to me, the people who are saying that the threat is exaggerated, as well as they feel they are themselves threatened, is a manifestation of that confusion. So they, on one hand, they are in the Imran Khan point of view, and then on the other hand, they are the People's Party government in Sindh point of view. So they keep vacillating between the two, and it causes a lot of confusion, and may not even meet any of the health or the economy objectives that both are trying to achieve somehow.
If I can add something here.
Yes, yes, please.
Yeah, just to take a minute, I'll come back to what basically I said earlier, that it's not just about public opinion. The governments are usually sensitive to public opinions, but as we know, if you know political economy of Pakistan, they are constituencies, their power lobbies and constituencies, whether it's the military or whether it's the religious establishment, have played an outsized role because of the power they, and we can discuss it ad nauseum, how and why and whatever, but that's a historical reason. I don't want to get into it. They enjoy far more power. So the public opinion can reflect something, but and also do not agree. I think it's not even about the Pakistani public or impression about the Pakistani public, that they don't really follow the government's edicts and they do what. For me, this is here is a rational decision making syndrome here. There is a rational actor. The message that it is dangerous for you, that it has started killing so many people globally. Okay, Pakistan death rate was smaller, but now the social media and news cycle, 24/7 news cycle, everyone, literally everyone I know, even on the street, knows how many people have died in the US, how many have died in Italy. So that whole fear factor is coming, and obviously it's reflected in the poll that an increasing number of people think that they should not be going to the mosque. It is dangerous, and that figure has increased. It was 50% who did report their family members going to the mosque, but then over the time, as the message has sunk in, it's only come down to 25 and 26%. But I think it's less to do with what the public feels. I think this kind of a vacillation that the government has done on keeping the mosques open or not open on that question, it's very similar with how we acted on the Tablighi Ijtama that Bilal has also mentioned. I mean, it was pretty clear to everyone that that is going to be a recipe for the spread of coronavirus at that point, and it did. We actually sent corona through the Tablighi Ijtama to Palestine. The people who went from the Ijtama here to Palestine and took corona with them, that was how it reached that area, occupied territories in Palestine. And so the government's vacillation over the Tablighi Jamaat is not because they feel the public opinion, which will be graded in how many millions of people support that or not support that. It is being blackmailed, or it's being in awe of these vested lobbies, or this power lobby that you have in the religious establishment, which has led to that vacillation. And there's also been this mixed messaging. But as time has gone by, people are following social media, following the message, following the news cycle, that people are becoming a little bit more wary about going to the mosques. Yes, there is a reduced number of people going, although as Fafin has reported that 80% of mosques did have namazis there, but it's still a reduced number. But I think it should have been a stronger lockdown, and it wasn't a good strategy to give this mixed message that the government did. I'll stop here.
So, I mean, I'd just like to add to this. I think Symbol put it beautifully. One of the things that is striking from the results of the survey is that it shows that people can hold contradictory views comfortably at the same time. So you can see, for example, that despite them having support of the government or the lockdown, they still think it's exaggerated. Whereas you'd imagine that these two views would not be concurrent in the same fashion. And it shows that in multiple other tiers as well. And what this also could potentially indicate is that once things do get really bad, you'll find a very dramatic change in opinion on a number of issues. I do think it's absolutely correct is that in terms of the number of people who hold views that support potentially putting curbs on mosques in order to prevent infections is surprising. And it may very well be that the government was anticipating the opposite of that. But again, like Symbol also said, is that it's not necessarily about how many people what. It is about street power and nuisance value. It is also about where opinion does matter, is even if people don't necessarily sanction certain behavior. When it comes to religious people, they have a certain diffidence that they feel it's an obligation to support them. And that's shown up multiple times in the past, and it still does. But as far as government messaging concerns, I think the two PTI provinces are relatively strong on messaging. I think the Sindh definitely is. If you look at the week before the extension of the lockdown to May, it the messaging in the run-up sounded like it was going to be lifted because it was all about the effects of the lockdown. This also now puts certain governments at a disadvantage. So, like when Sindh wants to pursue something stricter, it's got another tier of messaging which prevents people, because in this case, one of our problems is that we have a state which has difficulty enforcing writ when it's required, especially on contentious issues. And until and unless it becomes blatantly obvious to most people that this is something that needs to be done, by that time it'll be too late. And we're actually losing this run-up period where infections could actually be controlled, rather at the point where you get to an uncontrolled situation. Everyone agrees, the government's on one page, the messaging is just right, but that will become a moot argument because the time would have been lost for it to have mattered.